Hello and welcome back to our Halloween edition of A Splash of Paint, where it's time to welcome back versatile SAA artist Paul Beattie in his unique style of painting. So sit back and enjoy a spoonful of acrylic inspiration in part one of today's Try Your Hand At project.
Thank you, Matthew. Today I'll be working with spoons. As you can see, I've already prepped the canvas previously. I've basically come over with Liquitex soft body acrylics and painted the whole canvas black. While the paint's still wet, I've come in with my teaspoon and I've got some titanium white, and I've come in here and I've just dabbed and made a basic moon shape. And as I've been dabbing, as I get less paint, white paint on my spoon, I've started going around the outside and working outwards. What this is actually creating here is it's creating the appearance of foliage, but it won't come to fruition until the end of the painting, where this will actually look like foliage. But stick with me and you'll see how this works. It works really great. Okay, as I've prepped this already, what we're going to do now is we're going to come into the Stay Wet palette here, and I'm going to use the underside of the spoon. This is all I'll use throughout the whole painting. What I'll be using is this part here on the underside, and I'm just going to get some black soft body Liquitex acrylics in here, and we're going to come up to the painting and we're going to put some trees in. So it doesn't matter where you want the trees, so I'll just put one in here, and all I'm going to do is place the spoon to the canvas and just basically roll it down the canvas, making it a basic tree shape. As you can see, this is coming through here, coming down. Just remember that when you're doing trees, the base is generally wider than the top of the tree. So you always need a thicker base part, working thinner as you come up the canvas. And we need to get a few trees in here, so we'll just use the same process. And all we're doing is we're just blocking in the tree trunks. The rest of the work will be done after. So I've put one in there, and I'll put another one in here. And I'm just basically using the edge of the spoon and bringing that paint down. Try not to put too much flat spoon onto it, because what will happen then is you'll get a really thick tree. And by the time you come down to the bottom here, you're going to have such a thick tree you won't be able to fit any more in. So just be careful how you apply it. If you look on the side, it's really thin and it's really soft body acrylic. So if you do move it too much, it will apply too much paint to the canvas, creating a really thick tree. So just kind of use it on say about a 75 to 80 degree angle to the actual canvas itself, and bring it right down below the foliage markings that I've already put on. And you just do that a few times. It doesn't matter how many trees, doesn't matter where you place them really. I always generally like to put something that will push the moon backwards. So I like to put a tree either going through it or beside it where there's branches coming through. It just adds an added effect to the actual painting. So here we go. I'm just going to, it doesn't matter whether you work up or down really. Just pull that paint up. Need a bit more on there, I think. Also, don't forget to occasionally wipe the base of your spoon, because if you get dry acrylics on the base of the spoon, what happens is you'll start getting hard bits, will create uncharacteristic scrapes and scratches in your work. So this is it basically. I'm just pulling this paint up on the spoon very gently. You got to be careful. I mean, usually when I do this, I haven't pre-prepped the base, so the base is still wet. The paint is still wet. With it being soft body acrylics, it stays wet for quite a while. So when I'm actually doing this, it's actually mixing with the paint underneath. So when you come through the moon here, say, it will actually grab that paint as well and pull it down through the into the actual tree. But when you do place paint over the moon, you got to think that, you know, that's directly in front of the moon, so it won't have any light or shadow. on it, it'll just be like a silhouette, like pure black on white. So in a way, this is a little bit easier for doing the trees over the moon. So I think that'll do. I think 3 trees in this is ample for the size of the work. And don't worry if you do go a little bit wider, as I have done there, a little bit wider. Don't worry about that, because it won't really show in the end of the work, because it's going on to pretty well black anyway. And you can always correct it if you make a mistake. Doesn't matter, acrylics is great. You can always correct your work. You can work over top of it later. So just make sure that the, as I said, the base of the trunk is a bit wider than the top of the tree. And just add some more paint and bring it down. You can even drag it a little bit if you want. It's a little bit harder putting paint with this method and technique I'm using. It's a little bit harder doing it onto a dry background, because then you've got all the markings and ridges, so it doesn't mix in with the paint as easy. So that's it basically, just bringing in some basic trees. What we're going to do here is we're going to do a basic moonlit forest scene, but we're going to do it with water reflection. So I'm going to have some water down here. We're going to have all the trees and the foliage and the grasses reflected in the water. Okay, so I'm just thinking about this now. The way I did the background I've already told you, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here now and just going to get a little bit of white paint on the bottom of my spoon. I'm just going to dab it on the Stay Wet palette, because you don't want too much on there for the process I'm going to do now. When you're thinking you're going to do this, it's going to be reflected in the water, then just put a little bit on there, just to smooth it off on here. I'm just going to bring the same type foliage down the bottom, because it'll be reflected in the water anyway, so I'm just going to make a few marks, and all I'm doing is I'm just dabbing and tapping the spoon. As you can see, there's no great skill to it really. It's just a process of application. So and it's a great technique to get all that detail without actually painting it in and worrying about individual leaves. You get that detail anyway. So I'm just dabbing away here, just to make some basic foliage. And if you do put a mark in that's a bit bigger than you want, just get some black and just go over the top. What I'm going to do is I'm just, while the tree trunks are still wet, I'm just going to get a little touch of white on the edge there, as you can see. It's just on the very edge. And I'm going to come in and I'm just going to create, the moon's here, so the light's going to be radiating from the moon. It'll be coming this way and that way and straight ahead. So I'm just going to put this white along the base side of this trunk and just pull it down gently. I'm just barely even touching the canvas here. And you don't need too much on there, because you'll end up covering the whole tree, where you just put the one edge really. And once you've got enough on there, you can just pull it down, mix it in, let the paint do the work for you. It actually mixes quite nicely with the black underneath, just like that. And it creates bark and texture and adds a bit of depth, a bit of light and shadow. It's just what you need. And you just do the same with these two trees here. Come in at the edge, bring it down. And if you find that you're running out of white, just load a little bit more on. You don't need too much, just a little bit. And just bring it down, just to make the representation of light on the side of the back of the tree. And that's it really, you just do the same there. Now this tree is in front, so you're not really going to get any shadow come from either side. So really all you need to do is these two here. I'm just going to come in now and get some black. And I'm just doing the same again. I'm just putting some just on the edge. And I'm just going to come in and I'm just going to make the representation of just the odd branch coming off the tree. You have to be careful not to go too thick here. But as I said, if you do go too thick, you can always correct it later. You can add a little bit of white over top, or whatever the case may be, or black over white, whichever. And that's it. And I'm just making the lines to suggest the branches coming out from the main tree trunk. I'm not worried about all the individual branches and so forth. Just some lines for the tree. You can even use some of the black paint that's in the trunk as well, you know, and just bring that across. There you go. You're better to underload your spoon than overload it, because if you overload it, you are definitely going to make too thicker branches. Just make the representation of a few branches coming out. They're all going the same direction, all the branches, because they're all the same type of tree, I guess. But you can do the branches up, down, straight out, whichever way you want. I'm choosing up. And that's it really, you just bringing these branches in. It's a little more difficult here because the paint's so dry. Normally it's wet and you can just come straight in, and every mark you make applies a lot easier. There you go, that'll do for that there. Okay, and just quickly here, I'm just going to put a little bit of highlight under these branches, and on top here, all to do with the direction of light. We're about halfway through the painting now, so join me later and you'll see the end of the process.
Such an innovative approach, great contrast there, Paul. We look forward to seeing another big spoonful of inspiration later on in today's programme. Well, as you rush off to grab your teaspoons, folks, it's time for us to take a little break, but join us in part 3 when Jeremy Ford explains the joys of splodging, and our resident bookworm Henry Malt discovers the beauty of the Peak District with watercolour favourite Jeff Kersey. See you soon.